Path of Exile 2, Diablo 4, Diablo 3 for that matter too. All of the plethora of games that have come out to succeed as some of the original juggernauts of the action RPG genre have all tried to change the formula in some way. Titan Quest, the lesser known of the lot, is coming up on its 20th anniversary of having come out back in 2006. And just the other day, we got a shadow drop of the early access for Titan Quest 2, something that I've personally been waiting for all year. Let me tell you right away, it does not disappoint. With a channel name like Italian Spartacus, you can probably guess that I love Greek mythology. But Titan Quest is just so much more than that. Its spiritual successor, Grim Dawn, was created by almost the exact same team, and it lacks a certain punch that the original game had. Titan Quest 2 hits all those same beats and delivers a refreshing throwback feel to the ARPG genre that I think a lot of OG action players have wanted for a long time but just haven't received in Diablo 3, 4, or Path of Exile. Now, if this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge of my videos. So with that being said, let me give you the down and dirty of this. If you played Titan Quest, then you're going to feel right at home in the second one. If this is your first time in the series, even including Grim Dawn, you're in for a treat. Essentially, you create a character, then you choose 2 different masteries. These masteries include a series of active and passive abilities that you mix together to homebrew your own class, as it were. Currently, there are only 4, but they will be adding 1 new mastery every 3 months for the entirety of the 12 months of early access. So at launch, which should be this time next year, the game will match the original 8 masteries that we had in Titan Quest 1, allowing for a ton of variety in playstyles. It's worth noting that the DLCs for the original game added even more masteries, so that's something to be considered. Now, I haven't played a ton of Titan Quest 2. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, but what I did play was awesome. You're diving through a Greek mythology-focused action RPG. It's that simple. They've said that the early access has around 20 hours or so of gameplay available, so we'll see what the future holds. But the current rumor is that the future DLC for the game will take us to Egypt or Babylon, like the first game did, to expand on those mythologies as well. The biggest thing you need to know about Titan Quest 2 is that this is not a live service game. There's no rolling season or fresh restarts. The game is not meant to be played infinitely with constantly updated content via patches. Sure, there'll probably be, DLCs that expand on the content, maybe minor content drops from patches here and there, but the game is meant to be played and enjoyed, either single or multiplayer, then put down for a bit. Come back later if you want, or try new builds, but just like the first one, there's no ladder system. And I think this is going to be the biggest standout feature to a lot of ARPG veterans that are looking for more of a self-contained experience rather than the live service model so many games, action or otherwise, have gone with in today's industry. But that's too long to watch this entire video. I'm going to go into the game, or how the game is different than others in the genre, the specific mechanics of the game, and discuss the fun and difficult boss fights. But if that's all you want to know, then please feel free to shut the video down. I want to be respectful of your time. You can navigate to any part of the video that interests you the most using chapters in both the timeline and the description. And before you head out, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, as each one of those helps me out in a huge way. But let's get started on, can Titan Quest 2 live up to the original game? So before we even jump into the game and talk about all the cool features of Titan Quest 2, the real thing we need to talk about is the distinction between this game, Titan Quest 2, a Path of Exile, 1 or 2, Diablo 1, 2, 3, 4, or maybe even Last Epoch. How do they really kind of differentiate themselves from each other? And those other games have their own, differentiating factors. But the biggest thing, and this is something I talked about in the intro, Iron Lore Studios, I think, is the original studio that made Titan Quest 1. And then Titan Quest 1, they couldn't secure funding to keep going, so then they brought the studio down and made, I think it's called Crate Entertainment or whatever. That's who made Grim Dawn. It's pretty much almost the exact same dev house. And the traits of both of those games are inherent in the DNA of the second one here as well. It's almost like beat for beat the same, like I was saying. Basically what you do is, like I've said, you create a character. That character is just a blank. You then are granted 2 specific masteries. Warfare, Storm, Rogue, and Earth are currently in the game, as you can see. Now, we don't know what the other 4 are going to be, but examples of what those other 4 were are things like Spirit, Defense. Those were different ones from the first game. And you choose one mastery, like for example, I've chosen Warfare on my character, and then another mastery, I chose Storm. So that makes the name of my class Tempest. In the past, it was stuff like you could take, I think it was Spirit and Defense made you a Paladin, or Warfare and Earth made you a Battle Mage. And it was just a name for that combination of classes. So you could say to someone, hey, what character are you playing? Oh, I'm playing a Battle Mage. Well, in the world of Titan Quest, that means you're playing Warfare and Earth. And what that means too is it doesn't mean that you're going to have a set number of points for one mastery and a set number of points for the other. And we'll show this off more in the mastery section of this video. It means that you can put points into either one of those in whatever intensity you want to. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you get 100 points in the entire game to invest. It's probably way more than that. In fact, just from my first playing of this game, it seems way, way, way more than that number. But let's just say it's 100 for easy math. You could put 10 or 10% into the Warfare Mastery, and then 90 into Storm, or vice versa, or 50-50, however you want. And this allows you to split up how you play the game, because there are going to be certain benefits that are going to kind of focus on certain play styles. Oh, I want to do cold damage. I want to do lethal damage. I want to do poison damage or status afflictions, all sorts of things. And they've really taken this system and really amped it up with the new masteries and how they work. We'll show that off again in just the next section here. But this is what differentiates this game from the other ones. And it's what makes it so fun and appealing, is that you get to, of course, yes, the IP is all, would you say Greek mythology is an intellectual property? The setting is Greece. And that, I think, in and of itself is a huge differentiating factor when you compare it to Diablo, which is supposed to be that kind of high Gothic style of grim fantasy, and kind of maybe has kind of gotten away from that in recent days, or Last Epoch, which is basically like Chrono Trigger as like a medieval fantasy game, or Path of Exile, which is its own kind of brand of fantasy. This takes that historical fantasy or Greek mythology and really runs with it. So those are the things that make Titan Quest II its own thing. So here is the mastery system. And like I said, my character's just got Warfare and Storm, meaning I'm going to focus on either lightning damage, cold damage, and then a number of physical damage bases with Warfare. But you don't just kind of think of it as, oh, if Warfare is physical damage and Storm is lightning and cold. No, you can make all of your Warfare stuff do lightning and cold damage by virtue of auras and sorts of plenty of other things. And again, I'm kind of explaining this as if you've never played Titan Quest. So if you have, this is a little bit of a no-brainer for you. But what's nice here about this is, and this is again, if you're a veteran, you're gonna maybe shit your pants. I don't know. What's nice about this is there's more granularity. It's not just simply dropping points in these nodes. Now, both of these masteries are bifurcated by everything on the left are active points, and everything on the right are passive points. So you can kind of see too, any of these squares are active, any of these diamonds, or, well, it's weird because a diamond is a square, right? It's just rotated differently. Any of these diamonds, I guess you could say, are passive abilities. So right side, left side, that kind of stuff. And you'll get 2 active points and 2 passive points every time you level up. And you invest them across everything however you want. And there's also your core. And this is basically dodge, barrier, and then primary attack 1 and primary attack 2, which is reverse of what I highlighted. Now, what makes this so cool and unique is, let's take a look at this guy. Sweeping Strike. On a base level, this is what it does. Ignore that part, because there's a thing that does that. It just, you spin around, you do damage. Well, now in Titan Quest II, you can socket in basically these modifiers, these gems more or less. And you get one at 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9. That's what these numbers are, 11 levels. So it shows you the level that these unlock. And you can put up to 5 total modifiers into this. Now, why these points are important is these are basically the currency you use to socket the modifiers up here. You can see like this one right here, Lasting Whirl, requires 2 capacity to do so. So this are per rank, and these things, as they rank up, will require more and more. So it kind of shows you how this whole system works. But this is a way that you take Sweeping Strike, which sweep in a circle, dealing 100% 30 or 100% 30, 130% weapon damage in a 4-meter radius. Press this. Well, now I channel and I've got a whirlwind ability and I spin to win, right? Well, you know what? Now I sunder. So things now move slowly when they get hit by my Sweeping Strike. Let's have some fun with this. And now Siphon, they are going to take vitality damage every second, and they have vitality resistance reduced. And it says at the bottom there, vitality damage has a 10% life steal attached to it. So this shows you that you can really play around with these things, and you can have it do rage gain instead if you want, or you can have it do lasting sweep or ramp up. This one was what I was doing, where it's over 3 seconds while channeling, the damage is increased. So you can play a lot with these things, and this allows you to make your mastery a lot more fluid than it was in the first game. It used to just be your first one was like, cool, you unlock Sweeping Strike, keep going, dude. Oh, okay, and you go to the next one, the next one. Well, now you can make Sweeping Strike particularly work for a specific style or specific modifier you're chasing after. Maybe I want tons of rage. Maybe I'm working on the overwhelm mechanic. And it says at the bottom there, basic abilities generate overwhelm, stacks on hit. When at max, stacks can be consumed by overwhelm abilities for stronger effects. So you basically charge it up to explode it. So you get to have a lot of fun with these abilities. And it's over here too with heavy attack. You can shatter, stuff like that, you know, projectile penetration, wind up, or just you slam the thing harder, all sorts of stuff. But it's the same for our passives. So this innate ability is increasing damage with weapon attacks and increasing my attack speed. Well, you get 2 breakpoints at 6 and then at 12. And then I can add in feat of attack speed for even further attack speed or ailment chance or crit chance. So maybe I go with a crit build. Same thing over here with Storm. So maybe over here for Call Lightning, what I did was repetition. So now it repeats every time I cast it. So 1 cast is 2 casts of it, which is sick. Or Thunderstorm, when directly used, so not off of repetition, enemies in a 3-meter radius around the target location have a 20% chance to get hit by a lightning strike, which it says there deals lightning damage based on your character level. So you get to add a lot of modifiers to these things and make them really crunchy and juicy as it fits the mastery system you have in mind for the character. So you also, every single, I don't know if they put one in Warfare. Is this supposed to be? No, it's Stomp, Doomhorn, and Leap. Okay. All of the elemental ones, which is, Rogue is not specifically elemental, but it has poison built into it. They all have auras. So this is Storm Nimbus, which is going to give me lightning and or cold damage, and I can amp up both. So if I click on this, I put Thunderstorm on it. So this will grants you a 20% increased lightning strike damage. Or you can do Storm Enhancement. Aura grants an additional 8% increased cold and lightning damage. Or Lightning Imbuement. Aura grants you and allies 2+ with lightning weapon damage. So maybe I really want this to be like a Thor build or an Odin build or whatever, you know, and I really want to go hard in the paint on lightning. You can do that here. Or maybe I just want to go with a really crazy cold build. You can do that here without having to go into a bunch of different abilities, which I really, really like. In Titan Quest 1, you had a ton of abilities. When I booted this up, and I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna be adding more abilities to the game. Maybe that's what this means. And it looked like there's also a capstone on up here and there. Maybe that's what all this means. And then I took a look at these modifiers and I was like, oh, we're not going to get more abilities, or maybe we will. I have no idea. But rather, these abilities, rather than being 15 of them or 20 of them, because there was a lot in Titan Quest 1, you have got these set abilities that can then be modified in very specific ways. And you spend less time putting points into systems, like a lot of just like useless stuff to get to the next one you want to get to. Versus this, I'm going to really invest into Ice Nova, and I really want to do very specific things. And I love this system as it is. I think it's a really cool granular system that allows you to flex your character in directions you want to do it without it feeling too restricted. It's worth noting, if I want, I can just press this button and respec as I need. Just put points into whatever I want. Remember, like I said, you get points that you use across all 3 of these categories. When you first start off, this is going to be constricting, but you're going to get points from a lot of different sources, not just levels up. So you'll be able to go, oh, okay, I want this to be all into here. And I'm using examples, and you can see it just costs you gold, and not even a lot, right? Like I just shifted a lot of points around, and that was quite a bit. It was like barely any gold, but you cannot respec your masteries. Maybe there'll be a point in the game that allows you to, but From everything I've seen, you cannot. And another thing you can respec is your Divinity. So Divinity is a new feature added to Titan Quest 2. In Titan Quest 1, the amount of points you invested into a mastery would progress this bar on the left. So if you wanted to access this row, you'd have to say, let's just say this said 10. You'd have to put 10 points into the Storm Mastery. Instead, now you have what's called Divinity. Does that not like no hover over on this? Okay. So you get Divinity either by doing divine quests, by killing things, or as another reward for another system. So you'll get these points and you'll allocate them. So you can see to go from the base level to this one, it requires 6 Divinity. And to go from this tier to this tier, it's going to require 18. So you can respec this at will. This is nice because it doesn't lock you into spending active points towards a mastery system that you don't want. And what does that mean? Well, let's say I really only want Blink from Storm and then some of these passive abilities because I want my character to bounce around and teleport and do a bunch of damage, but I'm focused on the warfare aspect. Hypothetical situations here, right? Well, that means all I need to do is put 18 Divinity points into it and then I can get this. I'm not required to waste a certain number of active or passive points into a mastery I don't want. I can now cherry pick the specific abilities I want rather than syncing. And I think that's awesome because you do have a max amount of active and passive points in this game. I don't know what the max amount is just yet because we don't have the whole game, right? But that is something that hindered build diversity in Titan Quest 1. You are always going to be required to invest a certain amount of points to get certain abilities unlocked in a mastery chain. Now you just use Divinity, which is granted to you through quests, through divine feats, and through killing things, or Divinity experience or points. So I like that. And also fully respecable. Cost you a little bit more, but fully respecable as you can see. So there's a lot of fun that can be had with not just the mastery system, but with the Divinity system, which allows you to play with the mastery system more without such a heavy investment. It's something that I think, like you guys, if you've watched my channel for a long time, you've seen how many Baldur's Gate 3 videos I've done that are builds. Those builds are restricted because of the necessity to put certain levels into certain subclasses to get certain abilities. I don't really have to put the levels in here. It's just Divinity points. I can use those active points towards the other mastery or the core level, which is absolutely huge. So let's talk about that. So this game is not easy. And maybe it's just not easy because I haven't played this in a long time. So a lot of it to me is kind of a little, it's new. And what I mean by that is I move around with the left click, right click is attack. So if you've played any Last Epoch, you're going to be familiar with that system, but I just haven't played Last Epoch in a long time. So that's it kind of hurt me. And in addition to that, the process for using a potion is D, which is rebindable, and an energy potion is F, again, rebindable. And then there's Q and spacebar. Those are like the 4 big buttons you need to press in this game. And why core is so important is that things do a lot of damage to you. So you can use Q as a barrier, and it activates a little barrier in your character. You can see it's draining now, it's leaving, and it is gone. That barrier is a great way to mitigate damage, but we're going to show you how you can play around with that. And you also have space to do your dodging. Huge. Well, you see this bar right here? That bar is your health potion. So if I press D, see how it drained it? I'm going to press it again, and now it's that. I have to do damage to hit this little hash mark, and then it'll give me a healing potion back and do more damage to hit that hash mark. So the game encourages you to actively do stuff, either with your direct damage or with your energy to replenish those resources, replenish those potions, which is kind of cool. Back to this though. We'll get to this. We'll get to that. Don't worry about it. Mastery system here allows, the core system for the masteries, just like Warfare and Storm, allows me to be granular. Well, maybe, you know what? I've been playing a lot with Barrier. Well, now I want Barrier to also heal me. So for 2 seconds after you use it, you heal for 100% of the damage taken. So what I was doing was I was getting worked over by a boss. I used this, the boss would go do a big hit on me and it would heal me for 100% of that boss's hit. Boom. It was basically a free health potion that put me back to full health. Or you can use this. 5% reduced total 5% reduced total barrier, but now you regenerate health per second equal to 4% of your current barrier. So you can play with these things. Reflecting guard, have it reflect damage. Preparation here cannot be used during incapacitation, 50% increased total barrier, but less global barrier decay rate. So you have a bigger barrier, and the rate here is lower. So it just you have a bunch of ways to play around with this, and I really like it because it can really flavor how you really want to go into your defensive. Do you want to be barrier focused? Do you really want to play around with dodge and do stuff like distance, increase the distance here, or teleport to basically get blink, phase to target location, travel time 0.1 to 0.3 seconds, depending on travel distance, unused cleanse route. You know, you have a bunch of different ways that you can pull through these different things, which is here. We'll show you guys that. That was pretty cool. Do that there, and we'll go put this into here. No, we won't. Guess we won't. Oh, that's a pass. That's why. Another episode of what a great YouTube channel this guy's got. I am not a great YouTuber. Also, distance first, and then we got teleport. There we go. We'll do that. We'll accept it. So now we teleport. So a lot of really cool things can simply be done just by choosing how you want your character to interact. And same thing here with your primaries hack. You can flavor this to fit, and you got a lot of different modifiers here. You can flavor your primary attack rather than it becoming a useless thing that you discard on your bar. You can flavor it to fit a specific play style that you're going towards. Okay, I want this to work towards flow on my character, or I want it to hamstring or vitality drain, or do cold frost explosions. So you can play around with this. And on top of it too, primary attack is split into two separate ones. So maybe your other weapon set is a staff that uses fire damage, and this one is a your first one is, rather than it being a melee weapon, it's a ranged what the hell is it called? Bow and arrow. So use volley or something, or tailwind or something like that. So use projectile focused things. So you can really cater the core mastery in a really fun way that allows to just tons of survivability or different ways to do more of the things you already do with your existing masteries. Another big one now is our attributes. So attribute system in this game is interesting. You invest attribute points into one of these. You don't put them into these little guys. And as you can see, vigor is going to increase the measure of your health, and tenacity counts towards all secondary attributes, increases base hit points. And then investing points into any of these will then give you points towards fitness, cunning, or resolve, depending on. Resolve will increase fire and cold. Fitness is strike and pierce. And then cunning is poison and lightning damage. So it's basically lightning, it's specific damage types that get benefits. So might, which helps you with heavy armor and ornate armor, counts towards fitness and resolve, gives you more points towards these two. It increases those. You can see the little tendrils coming out from it. Or knowledge over here, you can see that supports magos robes and plated robes and magical weapons. You can see that that gives you benefits there. Our vitality will go to fitness and cunning. So this allows you to kind of focus around to different ones, try different things off. It's worth noting too, with attributes, that then creates the restrictions. I don't know if I can, of course not when I can't. You can see where it says requires fit 89, MIG or might 53. So it needs 89 fitness and 53 might to be able to use these greaves. So fitness is a sub attribute, might is the parent attribute. So this shows you how you would flex into any of the requirements for any of the items in this game, and that's why this is so important. Attributes obviously then have an effect on your different skills and your play style, but the attribute system is really fun and granular while also being very well interlinked. Now, every time I say that word, I think of the movie Blade Runner, but it's going to be interesting to see how this system works out. I think it's really fun and great. I just wonder if there's going to be some sort of stalling point where you like maybe it prevents you from using certain things with masteries or certain play styles. So we'll have to see, of course, how this plays out throughout the future of it, but it's a really intriguing system as it is. So in addition to all these things, you just have a beautiful world. You're going to just cut your way through. You're going to have fun just ripping and gripping through stuff. And this is what you can see here is we're just going through, fighting stuff, shooting things, hitting things, smacking up all over the place. So I was playing this on stream so people were able to kind of get a sense for how this game plays. And this is very similar. This feels just like almost like a remastered Titan Quest 1. And that's what I really enjoy about the feel of this game. It feels very fluid, but also feels kind of arcadey and old school. in a tighter way than Titan Quest 1 felt. Titan Quest 1 was a little wonky, and it's like it's a 2006 game, right? So if you played it even in 2010, it definitely had a feel that was dated. So this feels really good. And I think, like I said earlier in the core section, I really like how the core mechanics of the dodge, of the barrier, and especially the health potions, how they play into each other, how it encourages you to get closer and stay into combat and to do little things. And as you play through the game too, it's really fun that you'll have, it's a linear kind of progression because this game is linear. There are going to be probably some random generated maps. I don't know if they've made a ton of those, but by and large, the points of Titan Quest 1 were mainly linear to like the boss rooms, for example. In Titan Quest 1, the end of Act 1, you went and fought the Minotaur. And the Minotaur in his maze, that was procedurally generated. So it was all RNG. Or if you went to go fight in Egypt, I think you killed like Anubis, and it was randomly generated. So the parts that you'd want to grind are all procedurally generated in Titan Quest 1. So I'm hoping they do the same thing here in 2. What I've played so far are a lot of story beats that fall through a very set linear path. And that was kind of the intention was, we'll bring you linearly to the things that are fun to farm, and then you just kind of go crazy with those. So far, I've really been enjoying that feel because it's enjoyable. It's nice to be able to just kind of follow a linear path, hit stuff, and move on. Versus, when you play Path of Exile, which I love, or Diablo 3 or 4. I like 4 more than 3, to be totally honest. Or 2 or 4. Everything's procedurally generated, right? So you're always being thrown a loop for where you're going to go, what you got to find, especially if you've played the game a ton of times. You're like, oh, I've just got to find this stupid portal or to the Burning Wood or whatever the hell, or the next area to the Burning Wood, whatever it is. So you find that there's a little bit more tightness to playing at somewhat of a linear action RPG that I think if you haven't played one in a long time, you'll really enjoy. And if you've never played one, I think it'll be refreshing to know that you can just simply kind of disengage your mind a little bit, play through, smash through stuff, and then really turn things on for boss fights. The bosses in this game are hard. And I've only fought like the first one. The first one was a good challenge. Now, I think that there's definitely a little bit of issues with the way that the hit detection works here. Things are they'll hit you when you're maybe all the way out of the way, but that's something that'll get tightened up in time. It's an early access. But I find that the bosses are fun and refreshing in a way that, it's not too unlike what we've seen in a lot of the more recent action RPGs, right? Where you go to jump in to do a boss in an action RPG and now there are mechanics. Well, that is true here as well, right? You're going to deal with heavy mechanics. You're going to deal with a lot of things being thrown at you, but it's also going to force you to learn the systems of the game, which is something that I didn't realize I wasn't learning up until the point that I got to the boss. And I didn't really pay attention to the barrier because I was just kind of buzzing through things. But I didn't really understand how the health potion was recovering the more damage I did. So that was kind of a big learning point for me in this game, or in the early access, was understanding how those bosses were difficult, but also a very rewarding experience. And I think that's fun. That's great. It's great to have this very first boss not just kind of be a walk in the park. It was one I had died to multiple times on stream and then ended up persevering, but more because I learned the patterns, or I learned how to use my core, not to be confused with bracing your core, your lower back problems, but I learned how to use my barrier. I learned how to use the dodge and putting points into core. I was completely ignoring it because I was playing, again, a little bit too much like the first one. And that allowed me to get a heal whenever the Apollonia would do a big hit to me, or all sorts of other things. And I liked that little bit of being able to flex into it. Hey, this character is doing a ton of specific elemental damage and I don't have the resistance. Let me respec the points to then try this boss a different way. Or hey, let me do a different approach with some of my abilities. I think that ability to respec too allows for that flexibility, because this game is kind of geared towards that, just being able to flex around and try different things. So the bosses are very fun. They're very challenging. And my limited exposure to them, I've only killed this one plus a couple like harder bosses in the game world that are not like set bosses. And we're like, oh, well, now you got to fight me. And it's like not a big health bar at the top of the screen, right? That's like a real boss. But I've enjoyed the experience of them because it's been very refreshing in a cool way. So this all boils down to, what are my impressions of the game? And I think the game is off to a great start. Solid start. Is the game one that you're going to buy on early access and immediately plug all 20 hours into? Probably. I don't know. I think it's very quick to jump into this game and then sink the 20 hours and then shelve it again until another mastery comes out. That is, again, the reoccurring thing of what I said before, why this game, I think, has a very good draw for a lot of action RPG or hack and slash RPG players that just really want one solid experience and they can move on from it. They don't want to have to chase the constant carrot of, okay, big seasonal drop, here's all this new content, or big seasonal drop, this new class was added, and you have to start from scratch. Okay, well, here's a new mastery. Well, I'm not really interested in that one, so I'm just going to wait. Here's a new mastery. Okay, cool. Or here's a new mastery, and here's a new act. Or here's more content in the early access. So people will have that 1 year to suss it out, or at least they'll be able to watch the development of across the year. And then next year, when they're ready for it, they can jump into a complete Titan Quest 2 that is going to have a beginning, middle, and end, and that will be it. Unless they decide to say, hey, the game ends on a cliffhanger, wait for the DLCs, which they could, but still at the same time, it would at least be a self-encapsulated experience that you wouldn't have to chase your tail. The single player character can be brought online, but it's worth noting multiplayer for early access, it's its own separate thing. You've got 3 ways to play the game. Single player with solo self-found, so you'll never be able to go online. Single player with multiplayer capability, and then multiplayer. Now, the latter two cannot be done together right now. You can only play single player on its own build and multiplayer on its own build. They will eventually be put together. They've already said like, hey, we just got the single player done. We're working on the multiplayer build. Please help us test it. You can play it at your leisure. Just know that it is a work in progress, but it will be combined when the game launches. So we've got that. And also for the future of the game, there's something that I mentioned in the intro, but I just want to bring up again here. We've got 4 base, what are these things called? Masteries, right? And Titan Quest 1 had 8 masteries at release. So we should probably have roughly the same masteries. We had Storm, Defense, Earth, Nature, Warfare, Hunting, Spirit, and Rogue in Titan Quest 1. Right now, we have Storm, Earth, Warfare, and Rogue. So look for, hopefully in the future, Spirit Mastery, which had like Life Drain, Summons, Wards, Hunting Mastery, which has like bows and arrows, Defense Mastery, which is focused more on tanking and using a shield, Nature Mastery, which it's nature, right? So like heals and summons, a bunch of group buffs. It is worth noting though, Earth Mastery, for example, had some minor, I think you could summon like a Earth or Fire Elemental. So it doesn't seem to have all of the same kind of play style, which is good because Warfare was really, really, really strong in Titan Quest 1. So I'm excited to see how they kind of play around with these. And if you're curious, the 3 other masteries they added in Titan Quest 1 were Dream Mastery, which allowed you to like blink all over the place. Rune Mastery, because they went to like the north, like got into Norse mythology, and then Needin Mastery, which was like basically alchemy, potion buffs, debuffs, elemental damage, stuff like that. So I'm really curious how they're going to be doing the other masteries. If they're just going to take, hey, here's what the original Titan Quest 1 ones reimagined. If they're going to combine some of them to say, hey, here we put Spirit and Nature together, and then we're going to bring Dream Mastery into the base game or whatever it is. So a lot of exciting options here. Very stoked on the game, but those are my impressions. This is my initial upfront knowledge of the game based off of my playing of Titan Quest 1, my understanding of Titan Quest 2's future and what have you. You can go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. Have you played already? What are your thoughts? I'm really excited for this project. I loved the first one. It was one of my favorite kind of like, I'd say cultier ARPGs, even though Grim Dawn kind of came and went, and Grim Dawn, Titan Quest, and Van Helsing all sit in the same kind of like cult classic style of ARPG outside of the Goliaths, like a Diablo or a Path of Exile, right? So I'm really excited to see what the future of this game holds. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.